Everyone talks about how good real estate is, but no one talks about when your tenants don't pay, when you have to balance between being compassionate, setting boundaries, and being a business owner. My name is Maggie, if we haven't met, and I'm a real estate investor. And I just wanted to talk to you about what I'm dealing with a tenant, walking you through what I have done, and maybe you can learn some lessons also. So I have this tenant that has not paid her rent for 2 months. Their lease doesn't expire until September 2026. When they first moved in September, they were actually late the following month, and we were like, whoa. So we let it go. They were charged late payment, but they ended up paying. Come October, still the same thing. They were late, but they paid the late payment. Come November, they didn't pay their rent in November. Come December, they didn't pay their rent either. The good thing is I do have a property manager. They talked to the property manager and they made a payment arrangement. December 10th, we got an email from the property manager saying that they got a message from the tenant saying, is it possible to make a payment, a down payment, some payment plan? They're going to pay on the 16th of December. Then the last payment for the previous month, they're going to be paying on the 23rd. After that month, I can be on track. I've been delayed due to transportation to work, but I have my car now. So that was December 10th. We were like, okay, so they made the payment plan. At least the key thing is they communicated. So that was good. So for the November, they were supposed to be paying that rent for November and then December. So December, they didn't pay. That's the arrangement they were making to make those 2 months payment. So December 18th, they were supposed to pay on the 16th and the 23rd. They didn't pay on the 16th and we didn't hear from them. So on the 18th, sent an email to the property manager. They say they didn't hear anything from them. And they were like, okay, this is your option now. They said, we highly recommend that you file an eviction at this point. Since the tenant has not returned our communication, we think it's your best interest to file eviction. And they told us the cost is $500. And also, we do have another option. When we approve the eviction, they can either allow them to pay and stay, or we just want the possession of our property. So my husband and I talked and we're like, oh my goodness, it's December 18th, the following week is Christmas, it's a holiday season. So we're compassionate people. And that's why I was saying sometimes it's hard to balance between business and compassionate. So we're like, okay, it's Christmas the following week. We're going to let them stay. We're not going to say anything. We're just going to let it go and we'll evaluate after Christmas. After Christmas, the following Monday, we didn't hear anything. We decided we are not going to evict for now. And the real lessons here that I wanted to bring up is when we talk about real estate, and our lesson number one is that when we're talking about real estate, we're still not just talking about real estate. We're just also talking about real estate is not just about the building and everything. We're talking about numbers. So you have to deal with people, and people have things that goes on in their lives. Be it, as this person said, they were dealing with a car, people get sick, people get job losses, people get everything, stuff happens to people. So that's just one lesson that I've learned, that, when you are in real estate, you're also in people business. Lesson number 2 is communication. That communication is key. And it's funny because I had just literally been watching, I don't know, when you go on YouTube, I had all these recommendations for tenants that are staying in people's houses and literally refusing to stay. Literally tenants, that are refusing to move. There was this case in DC that was huge. This tenant she had moved in as a short term and then ended up staying. And there were Congress people that were involved and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So number 2, communication is key. So because she communicated to me, that was a good thing, because if they go radio silence, that's the time you start worrying. So she had communicated, even though she had not kept her word, she had communicated that she had a car issue and that's where the money went, and she was willing to pay the rent. Lesson number 3 here is having a system. Having a system is the fact that I have a property manager. I do not have to deal with these tenants. I have several properties, so I don't have to deal with tenants. That is a great system. They have system that they have put in place. If a person doesn't pay, they get sent these automatic things. I don't know how they work. After 10 days, they get 10-day late payment. And like I don't have to deal with all that. They have their own system that they follow. And if somebody has to be evicted, I don't have to deal with this. And actually, my properties are not in the same state that I live. I don't even know how I would be dealing with an eviction where I'm literally miles and miles and miles away from where my properties are. So number 3 is like literally when you have property, when you're a real estate investor, is having systems. So for me, having that system of property management is so key because I don't have to deal with this. I'm not the one dealing with the tenants right now, the tenant. It's the property manager that is dealing with this. And lesson number 4 is like literally setting boundaries between it's a business decision and also wondering whether do you evict or what do you do, and setting boundaries. What we did is recently they said that they needed to continue making the payment plans, but we set a boundary and we said we're not going to make any payment plans unless we get a deposit. Any kind of, because they were saying they're gonna be able to pay a certain date, and this it's 2 months now plus the late fees. So they were saying I'm gonna be able to pay a certain amount on a certain day. So we figured, hey, if they're gonna be able to come up with this 2 months rent, then that means they have a chunk of it right now. We're willing to take anything that they have before we agree to allow any payment plans. So they were able to put a little deposit. It was like what? I think it was like $400. And for me, it was something. Again, it's not the whole amount, but it was something, and it showed me, guess what? They're communicating, as I said before, communicating when you have tenants is key, because you don't want them to go radio silence, because that's another story for another day. So we did agree with that, but we set boundaries and we said we're gonna take the payment plans, but we need a deposit. And the other lesson is cash reserves are key. When you have properties, it's very, 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 very important that you have reserves, because when you don't have reserves, it's almost like your tenants are holding you back. And when they hold you back, it's almost like you feel like you cannot do anything because you're relying on them. Find a place where you don't want to keep having to evict people, but having reserves is so key, so that even when this one tenant doesn't pay, that whatever you have, let's say you have a mortgage on your properties. Thank God I don't have a mortgage, because these properties that we had bought them really cheap. They were cash. And so I don't have to worry about mortgage, but I still have to pay some bills out of my business from that tenant. But I also have to pay taxes, but taxes are not due until May. They come May and November. So I'm not paying anything as per se, and I don't have a mortgage on them. So, but if you have mortgage on your properties, it's very, very key to have reserves, because if you don't have any reserves, then that means that that you're going to be coming out of pocket. And if you're paying your own bills and then you're paying the bills of this mortgage of your rental properties, it can get very, very, very expensive. So the point here for me right now at this situation, they are supposed to they had made an arrangement and we agreed they're going to be paying today is the 20th and the 27th. So they paid something last week. They added something else to cover the first month that they are late. So they did pay November. So they haven't paid December, but still they have the December, and they're saying that they're going to pay half of that on the 20th and the 27th. But don't forget, then the February payment is also going to be due. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but so I'm waiting because it doesn't reflect until tomorrow. I'll keep you guys posted whether they have paid or not. But we're just wondering, they're paying that on the 20th and the 27th. That's that. But then still, how are they going to be able to pay the rent that is going to be due next month on the 1st? Between the 1st and the 10th. So I don't know, but I'm very, very hopeful. So, but my lessons here is that, as I say, those are my lessons. But why am I willing to wait for me in this situation? I'm willing to wait because, evictions are not fun. Definitely I'm going to have to cough up like $500 to evict them. And then for me, if I evict them, it's winter time. There are several things that are going to come up with that. This property where I have a lot of snow. So the temperatures sometimes during winter go to sub-zero. So that means I have to leave some of the utilities. They're gonna have to skyrocket because we have to keep the heat on. Because if we don't keep the heat on, the temperatures when they go to sub-zeros, they're gonna freeze the pipes and then the pipes can burst. So that's one expense. Then the turnovers to a new tenant, they're not cheap. We have to clean that home. We have to get it ready for the next tenant. So that's also, it's costly. It's not easy, even though they've been there for, let's say right now, they entered September, October, November, December, January. So 5 months or given 6 months. So still there wouldn't be a lot of stuff, but still I still need to clean it up for the next tenant. Then the other thing is, as I said, I have to find somebody to clean the snow to make sure that, the place doesn't look abandoned, that we make sure that we are cleaning the snow, we are making sure that, the ventilation, like all the things that happens during the winter. So it's not an easy one. And then the vacancy. People don't move a lot during winter. So if that property gets empty, so that means that I'm going to have to wait until maybe the spring time. Fine, I would put it on the market, but a lot of people don't like to move, especially because I know that area. A lot of people that don't like to move during winter. So I'll have to have an empty property where I could be working with this tenant. So that's the reason, I'm literally willing to work with them. And the best thing for me is that they're communicating. As I said, you want to keep them communicating, and I have a system. So that is key. And so without this, you might ask, Maggie, isn't this a headache? Would you still, if you had to do it over again, would you still invest in real estate? Of course, I would. I love real estate, and I believe that real estate is one of the ways that you can create wealth for your children, your legacy. I still would do it again because, hey, every investment, there is the ups, there's the downs for it. So I would definitely invest, and I would actually, even I'm looking for more here. Eventually, in a couple of years, I'm looking to add to my portfolio. So I would definitely still invest in real estate because this is just one tenant, and it doesn't mean that all my tenants usually do like this, but I will definitely keep you posted. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? If you were in my shoes, would you evict them or would you let them stay? If you're a real estate investor, let me know, how do you handle your late payments where a tenant is 1 month, 2 months late? Have you evicted them right away or do you give them a chance? Let me know in the comment, and thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you want more stories about real estate, and I will do that. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.